Welcome to Money 911, where we talk about health, wealth, and peace of mind. Today's guest has spent over 4 decades watching money move, markets shift, governments pivot, and gold quietly holding its ground through it all. While most people react emotionally to headlines, he's spent a lifetime studying what happens underneath the headlines. Our guest today is one of the most respected voices in precious metals, founder of American Gold Exchange, former president of the Professional Numismatists Guild, and someone who literally has worked with Homeland Security and the Secret Service fighting counterfeit bullion. But today is not just about gold. It's about wisdom, timing, human behavior, fear, freedom, and what smart people are quietly doing with their money while everyone else is distracted. This is going to be a fascinating, eye-opening, and probably a little surprising. Please welcome the legendary Dana Samuelson. All right, Dana. Now, after 46 years in the precious metals world, what feels different in this moment of history?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question, Kris. I got into the business in 1980 on the tail end of the first big precious metals run higher after the U.S. depegged from the dollar from gold in 1971. We had inflationary 70s, and gold and silver hit record highs in 1979 going into 1980. I got my start in 1980 and have been participating in the markets ever since. So that was the first big bull run that we had. We had another major bull run between 2005 and 2011 for gold prices, going from about $500 an ounce all the way to $1,900 because we were at war against Afghanistan and Iraq, right, and deficit spending. And then, of course, we had the great financial crisis. We had another big run between 2020 and 2021 when COVID hit. Gold went from about $1,500 to $2,100 an ounce. Right. And now we've had another big run, fourth major run of my career in this past year and a half, when gold went from about $2,100, $2,200, all the way to $5,600. So the first 3 big runs in metals had the same thing in common: major problems with the U.S. economy and a big fear factor in the U.S. But we didn't have that last year when gold gained 75% and silver gained 125%. This was absent fear in the U.S. market, which is unusual.
Yeah.
The reason metals took off so much last year is because of the Trump tariffs throwing a monkey wrench into the global trade order. And people around the world were uncertain about the dollar and about our debt and about the direction the U.S. was going in, which leads me to believe that the global buying run that drove metals to record highs into the beginning of this year were because of fear of the U.S. around the world, because it was a global market, not a U.S.-centric market, which is very unusual. So the world went on a buying spree for gold and silver to kind of hedge their bet against the dollar and our debt, which just keeps growing more and more, and our policy changes. So that's what's really different this time. And if we get a financial problem in the U.S., it means we're only going to run higher still and hotter still.
Right. So, that most Americans don't really understand money at all. Nobody's been taught. And if they're waking up, for the first time financially, what is it? What's concerning you? I mean, besides, the politics, the BRICS, all the wars and rumors of wars and all of those kinds of things. They're just waking up, and there's so much confusion. How do you guide them through that?
Well, we don't teach finances in our country well. We don't teach people how to manage money well.
Right. Right.
We have the world's reserve currency, which insulates us in a way that the rest of the world is not insulated from currency fluctuation shocks. So if we're in the US and everything is priced in dollars and we trade in dollars, so whether it's for oil or grain or fertilizer, whatever, we just have that $1 price. But if you're in Great Britain or in the Eurozone or in Japan or China, and you want to buy something that's priced in dollars, that's either oil or grains or whatever, you've got to convert your currency into dollars first. And that can lead to, hang on one second, that can lead to currency fluctuations in addition to commodity price fluctuations. So if your currency is losing value against the dollar and the commodity is going up in price naturally, you're going to pay for that twice in loss of currency purchasing power and also in higher increased price. Like right now, we're seeing the oil price go up a lot because of the war against Iran. So everybody's paying a higher price for oil, but if you're buying that oil in dollars and your currency's weaker against the dollar in the last 2 months, now you've got to buy more dollars with your currency to get into the oil trade to start with. And that's really the insulation we get from having the dollar as the world's reserve currency that most people don't understand. It's a little complicated, but not really when you think about it.
Right.
Plus, we don't teach financial education in this country. And, you know, the system is built for inflation, where every year the amount of the value of your currency drops a little bit less because it buys a little bit fewer goods and services than it bought the year before. When you have debt, you want inflation so that when you pay that debt back, you're paying it with fewer dollars in the long run or cheaper dollars in the long run.
Right.
And that's really part of the rub that most people don't understand. The system is built so that the dollars you earn today are going to be worth less with what they buy next year.
Right.
And the year after that. And that's just in normal times. And when you go through a phase like we went through in 2022, 2023, when inflation goes from 2% to 9%, or as it's going to do now and go from 2.5% to 3%, maybe to 5 or 6% because of this oil shock that we're going to pass through. It's still got a ways to go.
Right.
That's when you really feel the bite. Now, I do the grocery shopping for my family, and in the last 4 years, you know, I get half the amount of stuff in the cart for the same amount of money.
Yeah.
That's
right.
inflation, right? It's 25, 30% cumulatively. And that's just a loss of purchasing power. And when politicians who make a lot of promises that they need to pay for can just print money at will, that is a recipe for making the situation even worse. And you just can't print a lot of gold and silver easily. Right. Which is why when gold and silver were our monetary base from 1795 to 1933, we really didn't have any inflation at all because you couldn't increase the money supply any faster than you could do it organically to go with the growth of the country at the time. And in the last 30, 40 years, with the advent of computers and the ability to trade more and do more and more sophisticated trades with less time and effort, and the ability of markets to be more and more efficient, we just created more and more wealth, but we've also printed more and more money.
Right.
And unless you're getting more of that money, you're not keeping up with inflation now, which is really a rub for, more than half the country. It's a problem, a real problem, and a bigger one than we've seen since the late 70s when I was coming of age.
Wow. Well said. I mean, that really sums it up. And you rang my bell a few times because after 36 years in my practice, you go to school, you learn how to make money, you get out of school. What do? You go make money and give it to someone to gamble, and they have no idea, where's your IRA or 401k? It's just that they don't have any understanding, and it's no blame. They're not taught. That I created a financial wellness program just because I just see all these little sheepies about to go off a cliff. And it's so much human emotion right? That people buy or sell, like the emotion of people in a panic. Well, better get greed, gold or buy this stock or do these things. There's what sum it up in your brilliant way of the human psychology and the money and the fear based really economy that we're in.
Well, because we're not taught fundamentals, looking for true value, number one, or looking for what are the big trends for the next 5 years or 10 years that are going on that I can harness and buy into early in the trend and just ride. Most people make investment decisions based on emotion, which is
Right.
exactly the wrong way to do it. And as a precious metals dealer, I see it all the time because gold tends to climb a wall of worry, like we had during the great financial crisis, like we had when the economy closed during COVID, like the rest of the world felt last year about the US that we didn't really feel because the economy here was pretty good. And that's because people are making emotional decisions. They tend to come in hot and heavy when they're really scared about their money, which means they tend to be buying near the top of the cycle and not fundamentally when, it's what do we like to say? An asset is undervalued, rising, and hated. That's really when you want to buy something, right? When it's coming off of a bottom, nobody cares about it, uh, and
That's
the
it.
and the trend is kind of starting to be your friend. That's really when you want to buy into something.
Yeah.
And what's happened in the last couple of months with stocks, they sold off hard
Mm-hmm.
as the war started. And now they've rebounded and set new all-time highs for the Dow and the S&P and the Nasdaq. I think has set a new all-time high because they like inflation, and
Right.
that's what higher oil prices are going to bring us. And why do stocks like inflation? Well, because companies can charge more and they can get pricing power in an inflationary environment. But if there's too much inflation, that really starts to erode the bottom line, and then they go the other way. So we've gone through kind of that Goldilocks period because of the war. Now that we're about 75 days into it, where okay, we know we're getting some modest inflation, but if the Strait of Hormuz stays closed for
Yeah.
longer,
Yeah.
we're going to have more than modest inflation,
Yep.
right?
Right.
And and that's when stocks can go the other way because they're kind of emotional too in that regard, or they're looking forward to what's coming.
Right.
But these are not fundamentals. These are events that everybody's knee jerking to right now,
Right.
which is why it's
Right.
more important to find a good fundamental trend and try and harness that where you're safer and more solid in your investing decision making.
Right. And that's what, why gold has survived every empire and currency shift and financial crisis in history, right? But to you, does it represent wealth or does it represent trust?
It represents both. I mean,
Okay.
gold and silver are man's oldest forms of currency and money.
Uh,
And currency and money are two different things. Money is something that has value. Currency is a medium of exchange. For most of man's history, gold was both. And then we
right.
took gold out of the currency in the 30s. We took silver out of the currency in the 60s.
Right.
And now our currency has no monetary value within it. It's just paper that's printed based
Right.
on the full faith and credit of the government, right?
Right.
But gold and silver, particularly gold, this is why it's in such demand. It has no counterparty risk, which means its value is not determined by the other party to a transaction honoring that part of the transaction. So if you're a property owner and you're renting and you have a mortgage and you have a tenant, if that tenant doesn't pay the rent, well, you're going to have to pay the mortgage that month regardless. That's counterparty risk to you. If you buy a stock in a company, you're buying it hoping the price or the value of the stock will go higher because the company is going to produce more goods or services or profits. But if they don't, that's counterparty risk to you. But gold and silver, their value is not determined by the other side of a party. It's just they have no counterparty risk. right? The only
Right.
counterparty risk you have when you own them is you make sure you get good product, and then when you sell it, you make sure you sell it to a reliable dealer that'll pay you properly for it. That's really
Yeah.
your only risk besides a holding cost to store it safely and make sure you don't get robbed.
Right,
Right.
right. Well, speaking of safely, you've helped launch the Anti-Counterfeiting Task Force with Homeland Security and the Secret Service. I never really thought that much how serious the counterfeit bullion problem is, right?
Yeah, it's modest, but it's growing. So the Secret Service is responsible for counterfeiting.
Okay.
And I'm a member of the Professional Numismatists Guild, which is the leading organization of rare coin dealers. So numismatist is just a fancy word for someone who studies coins.
Okay.
And we tend to be the most trusted dealers in the country. You can't just ask to be joined the Professional Numismatist Guild. You have to be invited. You have to have financial wherewithal, and you have to be agree to binding arbitration if there's a dispute with yourself as a member or another member or member of the community. So if I sold you something and we had a dispute, you wouldn't have to go to court. You could take me to arbitration with the P&G, right? So we tend to be the best dealers in the country.
Right.
So I was on their board for 12 years, and I was president when it came to our attention that more and more fake Chinese precious metals products were coming into the country. And I realized at the time that it was not something that the coin dealer community could deal with by ourselves. We had to have the U.S. Mint involved, the Canadian Mint. We had to have Secret Service involved. We had to have, we didn't know about Homeland Security helping us at that point in time. But at that point in time, a U.S. gold eagle that's an ounce of gold has a token $50 face value on it because everything the U.S. Mint makes has to have a dollar denomination on it. At the time, gold was $1,300 an ounce. So you got a $1,300 an ounce coin with a $50 face value that that Secret Service thought was not as big a deal as a $100 bill because the $100 bill just had $100 written on it where the gold coin had $50 written on it. So we explained to them, no, the Chinese are faking your product. You have to do something about this. And it's disrupting the integrity of the product. And that's all dealers like myself have, right? So I conceived of and helped to establish the Industry Anti-Counterfeiting Task Force to bring as many different entities as we could together to fight this problem. And we ended up getting the Secret Service and Homeland Security as part of the task force. So now if a shipment's coming in from China and Homeland Security suspects it's got spurious merchandise in it, they'll call a P&G member dealer like myself to come look at it, to vet it, because they don't have that product expertise that we have, because we're handling the products all the time.
Right.
And, we vet them for them and say, yeah, that's bad. And then they'll seize it, or the Secret Service will get involved. And we've interdicted, a couple $100 million worth of bad product that it will end up on online auction platforms or private sale online chat groups where you get a good price.
Yeah, right.
But you'll know what a deal you got when you try to sell it to a reputable dealer like myself, because we'll tell you, that's tungsten plated with gold, and the Chinese didn't do a very good job replicating, the original product. In fact, the U.S. Mint and all the mints around the world have added tiny, minute design elements onto the picture that they stamp onto the products that they make to make it harder for the Chinese to counterfeit. Now, a professional like me, we can see the fakes a mile off, because they don't look right. They don't sound right. They don't test right. But if you're a novice investor or even an experienced investor, some of these are getting pretty good. They'll fool you, but they won't fool professionals like myself 99% of the time.
You just answered the two other questions I had about the mistakes people are buying online and protecting them from fake metals, misleading dealers, and so why it's so important to connect with someone like you that does that.
Yeah, I like to say find a dealer that has a little snow on the mountaintop like I do, because we're the guys that have been around through thick and thin markets. We've
Yeah.
survived bad markets as well as good markets. We have
Right.
opportunists that come into our space who will take advantage of you, but well, this is our livelihood, and
Yeah.
the opportunists come and go, but we come year after year.
Yeah.
So and we're really the most experienced, and helping people is really our job. And if we do that, we'll gain more business from you, and that's good for our businesses. It's just
Exactly.
simple, sound business practices.
Exactly. Exactly. But you know, to you, with all of your experience with, I talk a lot about legacy and freedom and financial freedom. What does it mean to you, like now versus when you first entered the industry? Has it changed at all?
Oh, it's changed dramatically over the years. I've seen a lot of changes. I've also do a lot of business with vintage US gold and silver coins with the money from back in the day, the 20s,
Right.
the 30s
Right.
and earlier, which are gold and silver
Beautiful.
history of our country.
Yeah.
So we didn't have independent appraisal and certification services when I started. So I learned to grade or appraise vintage coins before the two most trusted grading services came up in the mid to late 80s.
Wow.
Right. So I have some expertise that new dealers don't necessarily have because they can use the grading from the grading companies and not really have to learn it themselves.
Right.
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 It's like AI
Exactly.
is helping people be dumber today
You
because
said
it
it.
does a lot of things for them that they don't have to do for
Right.
themselves. Number one.
Exactly.
Number two, we didn't have the internet, right?
Hmm.
So there wasn't a lot of online trading like there is now,
Yeah.
or websites, so that's all changed dramatically.
Right.
And now, of course, we all have the ability to make videos, which we didn't before, YouTube channels, things like that.
Right.
So but the good news is there's so many different ways you can educate yourself now that you didn't have opportunities with before. So
Sure.
it's leveled the playing field for pricing, reliability, trustworthiness. But that's also that pendulum's starting to swing a little bit the other way now because anybody can look great online,
That's
right? So you really have to
right.
drill down underneath
Yeah.
what you see to see who the real business people are underneath that actually run the business.
Exactly. Exactly. Perfect. What advice would you give families that are trying to protect their legacy during uncertain times?
Well, gold and silver, which is my wheelhouse,
Right.
are a great way to save money,
Hmm.
to take some of your money out of the dollar and put it into something that's a better long-term store of value. So I really think stacking metal, buying on a regular
Hmm.
accumulation program where you put this X amount of dollars in regularly, whether it's a monthly or quarterly or annually, it's a great way to create savings for your family, um, because it's a way to take it out and put it off to the side and use it only if you really need it for a rainy day, right? If you really need cash for some reason, that's when you sell your precious metals. Like if you want to buy a house.
Right.
During the great financial crisis, 2 years before it, bankers would loan money to dead people to buy houses, right? And when the great financial crisis hit, nobody could get a loan. I mean, Elon
Yeah.
Musk could walk into a bank and not get a loan because bankers, they're very easy when times are good and they're very strict when times are bad. But if you have precious metals, you can always sell them and raise cash easily. So you get liquidity with precious metals. You get
Yeah.
preservation of purchasing power over time. If
Right.
and if you die and you transfer that wealth to your heirs, they get a stepped up cost basis,
Oh, that's
right? So
good.
there's no taxes on the inheritance on the profits based on what your person who has willed those to you paid. So that's how I intend to transfer some of my accumulated wealth, which I've worked
Excellent.
hard for over
I'm, sh-
46 years,
I'm
to
sure.
my own family,
Yeah.
for their benefit. And
Right.
I sleep better knowing that I have a little gold and silver off to the side. So I have it for a rainy day if I need it. And it's as an investment, there may be years where it doesn't do much. And then we could have a year like last year
Right.
where, gold goes up 75% and silver goes up 125%
Exactly.
because the world got a little scared last year about the
Hmm.
US.
Yep. Yep. Well, now there's a lot of talk that because silver is limited, there's a lot of people say, yeah, buy silver, because it's a limited. Are you of that mindset too, or are you balanced? Or
Yeah, the fundamentals are pretty good for silver right now for three or four different reasons. Number one, um, the world is consuming more and more of it in electronics and other ways on an annual basis.
Mhm.
It's used in solar panels. China is the biggest manufacturer of solar panels now. It's used in electric vehicles. It's the most conductive metal for temperature and electricity, much better than copper. So
Right.
in high-end electronics, it's very highly needed, and you don't really have a choice. And now we've got all these data centers that are being, built
Right.
to harness AI, and how much are they going to consume?
Mm.
So the demand is increasing physically, number one, to the point where we have structural physical deficits. Over the last 5 years, the world is consuming more and more silver than comes out of the mines
Mm.
on an annual basis. So we're eating into the above ground supply. And it really became material in price last year, which is why silver went up so much,
Right.
because there's not a lot of above ground stockpiles of it like there are of gold, where central banks own a lot of gold. If we need physical gold, it's lying in vaults and you can borrow it,
Hmm.
lease it, and replace it, return it. But silver doesn't have that above ground cushion.
Right.
And we're seeing more and more demand for it on an annual basis. And there's really not a good substitute for it. Um, and there's going to be new developments that are going to require even more of it. A
Mm.
year and a half ago, Samsung announced that they had a trial battery for EVs that
Mm.
was silver based and not lithium based,
Oh,
that would
dear.
charge in 9 minutes instead of 30 minutes,
Wow.
and would go 600 miles on a charge instead of 300 miles on a charge. So you get a third of the charging time and double the range.
Mm.
And guess what? Last November, December, they spent a couple hundred million on a closed Mexican silver mine to secure a supply line of that very same
Mm.
silver. So it looks like that battery's coming into being, where
Wow.
a year and a half ago it was just a prototype, right?
Interesting.
So that's what's going on. And there's kind of a
Hmm.
land grab for physical silver right now,
Yeah.
which is why I think it'll bode well for the price to move higher in the long term. But it's more speculative than gold, and it's more volatile.
Hmm.
So, it can be a little disappointing at times if you buy at the wrong point in the cycle.
Right. Do you do you is your definition for wealth changed over the years?
Um,
It's more of
yeah.
a spiritual question, a little bit, but you
I'm an
know,
older father, and my wealth is really my kids,
that's it,
you
right?
know,
Yeah.
and that's really the wealth that I have.
Yeah.
I'm going to be happy to be able to give them some cushion for their lives,
Yeah.
right?
For
I
sure.
was, you know, as you get older, things change. So I
That's
think
it.
that's a simple way to put it.
That's a good
But
way.
what I didn't do when I was younger and I was in the business was save more metal for myself along the way. And I wished I had stacked more
All right.
than I did.
Right.
Right.
Right. And yeah, exactly. Okay, so if you could leave the world one lesson about money and freedom, what would that be?
Well, I think JP Morgan said it best. Gold is money, everything else is credit. And that's really true, because we live on a credit-based society. Debt can be your friend if you use it the right way. And I think, real estate is a great investment vehicle as well, especially if you can have a tenant, or you can buy an investment property where someone else pays your mortgage for you, right? I think that's
Exactly.
a great way to build wealth as well. But I like taking the profits from that and putting it into precious metals, or having, 10% of my wealth in precious metals as a hedge against financial uncertainty, to give me that liquidity if I need it, if there's some better opportunity or whether I have a crisis, and as a way to pass, wealth onto my family.
Oh, so you're at 10%, not 20 or 30, even though you're the American Gold Exchange.
Um, let's just say that 10% is reasonable for most people.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to say what my percentage is, but
None of my business.
I can tell you that it's safely above 10%.
Yeah. Right.
It's what I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, tell everybody how they can get in contact with American Gold Exchange, what you do, and you're a gold mine yourself with your wisdom, and I appreciate it. And we'll have you come back again and talk about a little more financial education stuff that barely tapped into. But anyway, tell them how they can get in contact with you.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
Our company's American Gold Exchange. We're out of Austin, Texas. The website is amergold.com. We have a getting started guide we can email you if you send an email to info at amergold.com. Just put in the subject line starting guide, and we have a 12-page booklet that describes the most widely traded, competitively priced, and for you, easily sellable, not Chinese counterfeit precious metals, coins and bars made by sovereign mints. And that's where we have live online transparent pricing as well of the products that we deal in, which are all mainstream items. We don't have a lot of weird, esoteric, novelty items. We deal in the things that are good for our clients, because that's really what's good for us. And we put out daily gold market update information, so you can look on our website and see what's happening with the metals. And I also have a YouTube channel under American Gold Exchange where I talk about what's going on almost on a weekly basis. The thing about gold and silver, they're just rocks. Right. So what affects their value is external events, interest rates, financial uncertainty, geopolitical risk. And I'm a kind of a news junkie. I love seeing what's happening every day, because it affects my market. So I try and stay up on all those trends. And that's part of what we discuss on the YouTube channel, so you can keep up with some of those things as well.
That's great. I'll check it out too. Dana, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you and learning a lot more that I didn't know. And I wish you the best. God bless, and we'll hope to see you again.
Thank you for having me. I'll be happy to come back anytime you want me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. What a powerful conversation, not just about gold, but about awareness, wisdom, timing, and creating stability in uncertain times. A huge thank you to Dana Samuelson for sharing decades of insight from inside of one of the most fascinating industries in the world. And to everyone listening, may this episode remind you that true wealth is not built from panic. It's built from clarity, education, and long-term vision. This is Money 911, where health, wealth, and peace of mind come together. And remember, a plan is not a strategy.
I've created the Safe Money Blueprint. This is the same strategy that thousands of my clients have used to feel secure about their financial future. And you can get it free at healthymoneyhappylife.com/blueprint.
There's so much to learn about healthy money. I hope today's discussion brings you one step closer to securing and protecting your future. So you can get started on the right foot, go to meetwithkrismiller.com and schedule your free financial fitness strategy session. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to Money 911 so you don't miss our next episode, which includes health, wealth, and peace of mind.